I cook all the food for our family from scratch, but only once a week. And what surprised me the most about this is that it's actually given me more freedom, more peace, and more space for life. When I first became a wife and then a mother, I feel like I spent most of my day in the kitchen. But as I've had more children, I've leaned deeper into slowness and simplicity, and I've kind of rediscovered these very ordinary, very obvious rhythms that have actually given me more freedom and peace than when I was only cooking for 1 or 2 or 3. When I batch my cooking, it's not just about productivity or saving time. It's actually about decluttering my mental space. I'm deciding once instead of starting and restarting every single day, often multiple times a day. If you have children, then you know. And that one decision, it eliminates so much mental clutter. That constant low hum of what's for breakfast, what's for lunch, what's for our next snack, what's for dinner. All of that disappears, and in its place is calm. I've realized that this same principle actually applies everywhere, whether that's batching tasks for my work or just simplifying parenting, creating rhythms that repeat. They all clear space in my mind for what matters most in my life. Every time I choose to repeat rather than reinvent, I feel lighter, fewer decisions, fewer distractions, and more life, which is what I share about on this channel and in my Slow Lane newsletter too. In case you didn't know, I share free newsletters about soft living, slow food, and creating a simple life that feels spacious. You can check it out in the description. These days, instead of hustling through breakfast, lunch, and dinner prep day after day, I cook once, all from scratch, and I let that anchor my whole week. Hey guys, I'm so glad that you're here. It's a lovely fall day here in Southern California, and we are in my very small, but very cozy little kitchen. Where I cook for my family of 5 every week. I love cooking, but I have to say that since embracing this big family-friendly, batch-friendly, comfort food meal prepping thing, it has added so much slowness and simplicity to my life as a mother. I get to actually have downtime before meals, where nobody talks about this, but I feel like that downtime right before a meal, it's actually when I enjoy life and connect with my children the most. It's like those lull moments when there's really not much else going on. That's when we finally talk and just do something really sweet together. So those are moments I used to really feel stressed in, rush through, especially as a new mom. I feel like I had to entertain my kids all the time, and I really overloaded myself with like daily work, daily tasks, and my life I think was characterized more by like randomness than by this really peaceful rhythm that I've started embracing as I've just gotten older, I guess, and started embracing more simplicity and slowness in my life. So meal prepping. I guess if this wasn't like just wholesome and old-fashioned enough, I have my 90s mom recipe binder here today. When I was a kid, my mom had a recipe binder. I think I've talked about it in videos before. So yeah, naturally inspired by my mom, the original icon. I have my recipe binder here today with all my our family favorite recipes. It allows me to cook without my phone, which is a real delight. And today I'm going to be making some of our all-time favorite comfort foods. Now, when I say comfort food, I don't mean like unhealthy. I mean things that are going to be super hormone supportive for me, health supportive for the kids, wholesome, nutritious, but that actually are delicious and taste good. So I'm going to make a big batch of meatballs and sauce, because we're going to have spaghetti and meatballs one night, and garlic bread. I've got my sourdough already going. We're going to make a couple loaves of artisan bread. I also have a big batch of English muffins already. The dough's made, so tomorrow morning I'm probably going to bake those. I'm also gonna make a really big savory tart because we have a bunch of just autumnal root vegetables, and I thought that would be delicious. We also have a lot of onions, so I was thinking of like caramelizing some onions. We love having tarts in this house. I don't know if you guys are into tarts, but I make like a really delicious pie crust, and I do it real rustic style on a sheet pan. I'll show you. And then I just basically put, if we have like leftover veggies that didn't get eaten, I'll saute those up or roast them, and it is so cozy and comforting and like secretly so healthy. You're gonna want to tuck yourself right in with it. So I'm excited to make that. I'm gonna make a shepherd's pie. I mean, who doesn't like shepherd's pie? It's a classic comfort food that you can make in a casserole dish, stick in your freezer, and eat it whenever you like. It's a crowd pleaser. Similar to that, an eggplant, like a layered eggplant cheese bake, really comforting, really delicious. One of my all-time favorites. We're also gonna do harvest bowls. I like making like the elements of some things in advance. So I'm gonna like prep the rice, I'm gonna roast the vegetables, just whatever vegetables are in season. I'm gonna make like a little bit of a sauce to go over the top, and then we can have basically rice bowls. I'm calling them harvest bowls because we're entering fall right now, and that's more the types of fruits and vegetables we have. But I have a bunch of ground beef too that I'm gonna cook up. I have a big roast that I just pulled out of my freezer that I'm gonna cook in the Instant Pot so that we can make tacos. I'm gonna make one of my kids' very favorite pastas too, a garlic and cauliflower mornay sauce. It's like a fettuccine white sauce filled with vegetables that you will not even taste. It's delicious. We love pasta in this house. So anyway, that's a really easy thing to prep too. And we have a bunch of breakfasts that I always prep on this day, usually with the kids too, because they really like prepping things like yogurt parfaits in little jars, just layering yogurt with fruit, frozen fruit and honey, and I don't know, sometimes some like puffed quinoa or beef, something like that. They get very into decorating those, and then they can just reach for them at breakfast time if they get up earlier than me or whatever. I don't have to start rushing around in the morning feeding them. I know that something really wholesome and nutritious is in the fridge ready for them to serve themselves, and it's not like some processed snack. We're also going to prep breakfast sandwiches because it's one of my favorite breakfasts. I'm in my luteal phase this week. I don't know if that's applicable to any of you, but in case you're wondering, in this phase of my cycle, this like later portion of my cycle, I focus more on like nourishing fats, high protein. So if that's important to you, just know that that's going to be important in this particular meal prep. I'll be sure to link all the recipes for you if you want to cook along with me. If I can get to it, I might throw some eggs together for a quiche. I like having quiches on hand. They can be anything you want, breakfast, lunch, dinner. They freeze pretty well in my opinion, and you can throw anything in a quiche. Cheese, like lots of herbs. They're just so great and versatile and high protein. Extras, I feel like when I'm on a roll with cooking during these batch cooking days, I usually just throw together some really simple snacks too that are kid favorites. So today I think I'm gonna just make a casserole dish of gelatin gummies. They're good for me, they're great for the kids. Everybody seems to like them. So let's get started. This usually takes me about 2 hours, but I already have on the stove a pot of water with veggie scraps from a little bit of chopping I've already started. So I'm making some broth because why not? Might as well fill some jars. By the way, if you don't have jars, some empty casserole dishes, you don't need anything complex. I don't do those little like single serve, all those glass things. I like to keep it simple, big batch friendly, where you can just cut the portion you want or feed the whole family. Mason jars can pretty much do it all. So I've got some veggie broth started. What else? I have my dough started for English muffins and a couple loaves of bread. Oh, and in the Instant Pot, I've already started some refried beans because my kids for lunch often make bean burritos. We just have a whole stack of tortillas that I get at Whole Foods. These are super clean. Tallow, cassava, salt, and water. So they make themselves bean burritos all the time, or quesadillas, or leftovers. So I just like to have that on hand. So let's do it. I'm really glad you're here. Let's meal prep. and then spend the rest of the week not cooking and instead just enjoying. I used to be so intimidated by batch cooking. It sounded so overwhelming. I thought I'd be spending all day in the kitchen and then facing a fridge full of like complicated single serve containers that would have to get reheated in the microwave, and just a mental focus that I assumed would be too much on like calorie counting and food as fuel rather than food as nourishment and life as enjoyment. But what I found is the total opposite. Cooking once for me, it's not about making everything perfect. It's about creating for myself this gift of having someone make dinner. I think so many of us as women are like looking for something that's going to be self-care in the week, that's going to really feel good. And we've forgotten how good it feels to have someone make us dinner. And this is just a simple switch you can make to decide to block out a part of your week for like 2 or 3 hours to just make yourself dinner for the whole week and put it in your fridge. All of us have forgotten how cozy, comforting, how much peace having someone put a homemade meal in your fridge is. A big pot of soup that can just warm you up for days. A loaf of bread that you can slice for toast, you can make for sandwiches or snacks. Even just a big tray of roasted veggies. It takes like 30 minutes and 10 minutes of chopping, but now you have toppings for bowls, wraps, or even like a pasta dish. And it's all from scratch and completely uncomplicated. Okay, a couple super simple tips to help you start to embrace the simplicity of cooking for a large family right now, today. And tip number 1 is to just double what you're already making. It's so easy to forget that the easiest way to meal prep is to just double what you were already gonna make and put an extra meal in your fridge or freezer. Sometimes I get intimidated just by the having to buy more of the ingredients, because it does require you to commit to actually making that thing. But if you have the ingredients on hand, you're doing the same amount of work, but you're doubling your return. And it's so easy to forget too, all that time you spend doing dishes, prepping 2 different meals. So you're saving all the time doing that, and you're putting another meal in your freezer while keeping everything homemade. Tip number 2 is to prep ingredients, not just meals. If you're not someone that particularly likes to meal plan, I love just making a big pot of beans, a big pot of soup, cooking whatever meat I have in my freezer, and maybe like a big sheet pan of roasted veggies that you can just start to make a bowl. You can make a wrap, you could make a sandwich, you can make some type of pasta dish. And instead of boxing yourself into full meals, you can batch these flexible building blocks of large quantity staples, a big pot of grains, beans, a big sauce that can be reimagined and worked with throughout the week. This keeps things fresh and cuts back on your waste. From slowing down and simplifying, I feel like I've learned that when I create less noise for myself, for my children, for my family, we actually all just really effortlessly thrive. I think the same is true in my kitchen and so many other parts of my life. When there are fewer moving parts and fewer decisions, there's actually more peace. And for me, more creativity. I find that I actually make things on a whim during the week that are just more for fun. Like, I don't know, I love baking. So I actually get to enjoy baking because I don't have the heavy lifting of making our actual meals. And if you have a large family, you totally understand that. This rhythm of cooking once a week, it's a small example of what happens when I think we embrace limits instead of resisting them. Having a larger family rather than like having one child or having no children. For so long, I thought of freedom as having like no responsibilities and having all the options open to me. And if I play this into my kitchen, it's like having every night be open to whatever it is I want to make. Just maybe buying food for one night at a time, more recipes, more flexibility, more choices. But the real freedom, as I reflect on it, has come from me embracing these limits. I think another really beautiful benefit has been the food waste, which is practically gone because when I am clear with myself on what I want to make, I use what I have. And it's kind of a decluttering, not just of food, but of time and energy and thought. The more that I structure my week like this with these very simple rhythms of intention, the freer my life feels to be more creative, to lay in the sun and play with my kids and, work on what I feel called to build and be fed really well rather than just hustling over meals. Cooking this way has given me back more than time. It's given me presence around the table in motherhood, even in my marriage. And it reminds me of something that I teach in my course Made for This. When we build simple, nourishing rhythms, as women, we naturally multiply life in us and everyone we touch. So yes, I only cook once a week, but it isn't really about the food. It's about creating these rhythms that give me back my time so that I can live a softer, slower paced life, so that I get my presence back and my peace. The whole week of cooking is done. Let's go over everything I made. I'm very excited about it. That took me like 3 hours because I was filming. I have so much food right here. I have a giant potato soup that just cooked in the background while I made an eggplant and cheese marinara bake. I made shepherd's pie. I have a whole ton of roasted veggies to use this week. Root veggies, onions, a whole head of roasted garlic to put on garlic bread, really quick and easy. Since I don't use a microwave, it would just be easier to use a rice cooker and make rice on the harvest bowl night. I cooked bacon for my breakfast sandwiches because who likes making bacon? It's so messy. I made this cute little tart, which I'm gonna top probably with feta cheese and probably some herbs on the day of. I'm actually gonna freeze it just like this right now. It's uncooked and I'm just gonna pull it out like this, throw it on the baking sheet and cook it at 425. I'm actually gonna put it in the freezer right now. Look how cute. These are those little Jell-O gummies. My kids already ate 75% of them. This is the cauliflower Mornay sauce. It's so light and creamy and dreamy. All the recipes are tucked in the description box for you if you want to prep any of this for your family as well. With the Mornay sauce, I'm just going to cook pasta the night of and we'll have that. Spaghetti and meatballs I haven't done here. I have a whole thing of sourdough cookie dough, so I'm going to throw that in my freezer so that we can just pop it out and make cookies in the afternoon when we're reading or whatever. Bean burritos. And I have a giant roast sitting right here that I'm just gonna like fork apart and we'll use it for tacos, toppings for the harvest bowls, sandwiches, whatever else. I also forgot to mention my English muffins, which if you've never made English muffins, they're like the easiest. I love baking and I just feel like they're the easiest thing to make ever because they can take like 4 minutes right in your skillet in the morning and they just taste so good hot. I have my dough ready and I'm just gonna stick it in my fridge, and when I'm ready to make them, I'll just make them all at once. I didn't get to the quiche, but I'm pretty happy with this. This is gonna be more than enough for us for the whole week, and I will not have to cook again unless I'm inspired to cook or bake bread or something like that. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll subscribe, and I will see you very soon for another video.